I'll be talking about the Yukon Permafrost Network and more just providing an update on the status of the network. So the network was established in 2011, and this was an INAC project looking at infrastructure vulnerability to permafrost degradation in Yukon territory. So there were two components to this project. There was one that Highways and Public Works of Yukon did, looking at infrastructure vulnerability, and the section and component that I worked on was compiling permafrost data throughout the territory and putting it somewhere where Yukoners could access it. So these two photos here just kind of illustrate the scope or the breadth of the type of information that is encompassed within the data that we have within the network website. So on the left here, we can see this is just in the Dawson Goldfields. So we have archaeologists and paleontologists looking at Pleistocene megafauna. So those sorts of information ranging from people actually doing work within the communities. And those data are captured as well for community members to find. So it's not just for your high-end researchers and academics, but this information can be used within different government departments and then the communities and schools as well. So the different components of the network include data collection. So I went, and a few of you were kind of subjected to me kind of banging on your doors asking for data, and it's not that we want to house the data, but just provide links and resources for people who are interested in finding out what is the permafrost thickness in a certain area, or active layer, or even ground temperature, that they can go to one spot for the Yukon and access all the different links to, say, the GSC databases. So it's not that we're trying to hoard all the information, but just trying to make it easier for Yukoners to access. The next part is connecting the communities with the research. So if there's a certain community member or even the First Nations who want to be able to find out what's going on for their community, they can go to somewhere as well. There's community outreach initiatives. So in 2011, a colleague of mine, Panya, worked with Dr. Kenji Yoshikawa in the Permafrost Outreach Program, instrumenting a number of different schools throughout the territory with frost tubes. So the data from those tubes has been uploaded into a Google Earth format so that school children and communities are able to access those data as well. And that's part of the Google Earth that I'll talk about later. So with the data collection component, it was going around talking to people, getting their data, or at least finding out where it was located so we could point to it, as well as we host Yukon Geological Survey data. So that ranges from all of our surficial map projects, from our surficial program, into active layer monitoring, and then any other permafrost-related projects that we have within the Geological Survey. We also are looking for new data contributors, so there could be some people in this room who are doing work in the Yukon, and if you have any data or past projects that you think might not have already been incorporated into the Yukon Permafrost Network website, then definitely contact myself, and you can find all of the information on the website as far as contributing. And here's just an example of some of the frost tube data that came from schools that were involved in the Permafrost Outreach Program. So it even just provides, for school projects, a nice way to visualize some of the ground temperature depth throughout the year. So contributors so far to the network have included Yukon College and a number of different universities who have research projects going on in the territory, industry, as well as different governments. So we can have the local municipal government and Yukon government, the communities providing information for academic reports that have gone on in their territory or their community, and then local knowledge as well. So I'm just going to walk you through the website for those of you who haven't visited. This is the main homepage that will welcome you to the site. On the left-hand side is the menu of the different pages that are located behind the homepage. So there's the Permafrost 101 site for someone who maybe hasn't been introduced to permafrost data and just wants to know a bit more about permafrost, then it's a really welcoming place to just get a basic backgrounder. There's the members site, so if someone within the territory, say, is in Carmax and they want to know who can I connect with, then all the members' information is there. And the center is just a carousel of different photos from research projects that are taking place within the territory. There's a newsletter PDF on the right that just has some of the current research. So there's to examples of collaborations with the Northern Climate Exchange and their research projects that are going currently right now in the territory so people can find out what's going on. Discussions, there's some information about Kenji's trip that he just had last spring across the Arctic, so if people want to know, okay, what's going on in the news related to permafrost in the territory and in the north. And then there's an events page. So events such as this are on the website so that people can find out what's going on quite easily. Here's the Permafrost 101 page. So just a map of the distribution of permafrost and just some of the basic terminology concepts, and then links to educational resources surrounding permafrost that are hosted by other agencies, but there's no point in duplicating some amazing resources. And one of those that I hope everyone in this room is familiar with are the Tunnelman video series. These were put together by Kenji Yoshikawa and his research partners at University of Alaska Fairbanks. And there's a series of 5 videos that cover different topics of permafrost, and they range in about 2 to 3 minutes of length. And they're great resources for going into the classrooms, but also going into communities as well, talking about everything from permafrost geomorphology to active layer thickness monitoring, and then permafrost monitoring over time. So definitely, we have links to this, but worth checking out that as a resource as well, especially for community outreach and engagement. Here's the list of the Yukon Permafrost Network members. So right now, it's just, you can scroll down, and this is just a list of scientists, researchers, engineers, community members who are working with permafrost within the territory. So it provides a link to their email or to their website just to get a bit more information. So again, providing communities and residents and even people within government connections of, okay, I need some data, who can I go to? So kind of getting us from outside of our silos. The data dissemination on the page, there's 3 main types of data that you're able to access. So some of the data we've put into Google Earth format, whether that be point or polygon, and that enables people who might not have GIS software to access those data. As well, all of our surficial maps are in Google Earth format as well. Then there's ArcGIS data. So this might be for kind of like a higher end level user who has the software and kind of require those information. And then links to a bunch of other data sets. So again, not trying to hoard all the information, or we want to provide a way that people can access the information without having to spend hours on the web. So here's just an example of what you would see on the website. So if you're looking for the Google Earth and active layer monitoring, so this would be a point source with depth of active layer, and this would be a bubble that would pop up when you clicked onto it. And then that photograph on the left is just showing the students who are working as part of the Permafrost Outreach Program, taking their frost tube measurements with Kenji. So again, the whole idea behind this is having permafrost data information, but having it accessible, easy to use, in a format that's inclusive. And as well, I talked about the little newsletter that was in the top right corner, that PDF. And so that highlights the current ongoing, not research that happened 5 years ago, but research that's going on right now in the territory, which I think is really important to keep things current. So these are just a couple of the projects that are going on through the Northern Climate Exchange, and they'll be talked about later on in this workshop. But just the geoscience mapping for climate change adaptation and vulnerability of North Alaska Highway to climate change. So again, the importance, and if there's any other projects, just let me know and I'll put them up on the site, and then that way people know what's going on. Maybe they can piggyback on different projects. So in order for this website and kind of network to have taken place, I'd like to thank the data contributors, because without the data, there's nothing to disseminate and distribute. Also, the Yukon communities for allowing me to come in, chat with them, find out what their needs are. And then the Northern Climate Exchange has really been a great partner right now as far as providing information and data that we're able to populate the site with and allowing to share with communities. That's it.